with Steve. We want to talk a little NHL. He says, do you think the Ducks win more or less than 30 games this season? Verbal needs to go.
Well, in terms of the Ducks, they need production out of their kids. And to sit here and to see Trevor Zegras have 2 goals, which is absolutely stunning to me because he scored 46 his first 2 years in the league and just looked magic out there. So I'm just concerned that either he's not right or the game has caught up to him, or maybe he just is not working hard enough. His name is out there. And John Gibson, they're trying to trade him. Gibson, I think, wants to be traded. I think he's tired. I mean, he's been the bellwether in goal during the midst of this rebuilding, and it's been brutal. He's got no support at all. It's been really, really hard on John Gibson. So I think he will go. But, if they trade Zegras, they'd already traded away Jamie Drysdale, although it brought him Cutter Gauthier, the college sensation, in the deal. Better get the right guy for him. But the young pups just need to score and get better. They still might be a last-place team, but hopefully they'll be a better than the team we've had the last couple of years because they just have not been competitive. But you can't play all those kids simultaneously. It's hard, age 19 to 22, to have a roster with that many young guys. I think I counted when camp opened, John, they had 8 guys under 23 years of age on their roster. That's too much.
Yeah, that's a young squad.
Very young squad. Okay, good to have you on board, Steve. Thanks again for joining us on the Hockey Outline.
Okay, let's move on. We'll talk some NFL football from Bob. He goes, Jackson will run all over the Chargers defense tonight.
Well, I said a week ago the Chargers had to prove themselves because they hadn't played anybody, hadn't beaten anybody, hadn't met a good quarterback. And they had Joe Burrow down 27-3, and Joe Burrow led them back and tied the game 27-27. Chargers got off the hook. So that's one box we can check. They beat a good quarterback. They got to beat a second good quarterback. It's a really dynamic Baltimore Ravens team. And yeah, I concur with you. You didn't say it, but I'm allowed to say anything I want on this podcast last I checked.
It's got your name on it.
That's right. Thank you. But you're responsible for it. Baltimore's going to test their manhood, period, exclamation point. I mean, Baltimore is going to move Lamar Jackson all over the place. And that big-time running back is going to play power ball, and he's going to beat on you, and he's finally going to get some yards, a.k.a. Saquon Barkley last night. So I think it's going to be a great game. But, yeah, Charger defense they're going to have to man up because their manhood is going to be tested tonight.
I just remember, Mark Andrews is a hell of a tight end for the Ravens.
And they got a second young tight end who's not a vintage wide-body tight end by the name of Lively, and he catches all kinds of stuff down the field.
Yeah, I mean, what a great name, by the way, for a receiver, Lively. But yeah, this is must-see TV. I mean, this is a marquee game. I mean, it's going to be with playoff implications for both teams.
Could you imagine if Howard Cosell was in the booth tonight, what he'd be saying? The adjectives and adverbs would be coming out. That's the only thing that's missing from this broadcast tonight is Howard Cosell's not there.
Yeah, we should put O.J. Simpson in the booth with him, right?
No, I'll pass on that one. You told me you weren't going to drink before you did this. No more bad ideas. Next one. Thanks for the comment, Bob.
Let's go to Manny. This is a 2-parter. So the first question is, what do you think of the young quarterback on the Patriots? Give him an O-line, and he could be really good. And then he follows it up with, and can my Finns run the table?
So far, so good with Miami with 3 straight wins, although they are not getting any chunk plays out of Tyreek Hill. So this wrist injury, it's been rumored that he needs surgery, and he's not had surgery. But Jalen Waddle had a phenomenal game yesterday. I'm still waiting for Odell Beckham to earn his money. He's been living off that one-handed catch that he made 10 years ago, and he was not a consistent big-time contributor at the end of his run with the Giants. MIA in Cleveland, did not hardly contribute with the Rams, though there was knee surgery that was part of that equation. He's still not making a ton of plays and not targeting him a ton of times, and he's making some decent dough with the Dolphins. But, as long as Tua stays in the pocket, Miami, they're running uphill, though. I mean, they're running out of games on the calendar, too. So only time will tell whether they can survive this. And what was the first topic he had?
Oh, about the Drake May.
Stud. A lot better than I thought he would because they had to change everything about him. He was a lifetime shotgun quarterback at North Carolina. They're running some of them under center. Tell you what, he is big and he's powerful. He looks like a young Ben Roethlisberger to me. And it took Ben a little bit of time to learn coming out of Miami of Ohio, which is much smaller. Drake May has just made great advancements. And I dare you to look at that roster, and I dare you to tell me who the hell these wide receivers are, and do they really have any running backs? Because I don't think they do. I think the roster is really thin, and I just don't think there's a lot of playmakers. But he's a playmaker. He's a really good player.
You know, what's interesting is a couple of months ago in the early part of the season, I was talking with a longtime Patriots season ticket holder. And I asked, and this is before May was getting the snaps. You know, who was it Brissett?
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, he was the starter. And I was asking this guy, I go, why are they not playing the rookie? And he said they're trying to protect him because the O-line is crap. And they thought that he was going to get killed back there.
Well, the O-line's gotten better because some of the guys that were on IR are now back. But he doesn't have a lot of good skilled people. They may have, outside of the Raiders, they may have the worst collection of wide receiver running backs in terms of productivity. You haven't done anything in the league on the roster. That's a byproduct of the tail end of the Belichick regime. So it's, that's work in progress. But that kid's I think he's a stud. I think he's really good. Now, he's not getting any recognition because of what Jaden Daniels obviously has done and the hot and cold, in and out, good and bad, Sunday by Sunday that Caleb Williams is. He's been a roller coaster. But I think Drake May's going to be a nice quarterback in the league.
I think Daniels has got to be the rookie of the year in the NFL.
Think so. Yeah.
I mean, he's just been fantastic.
But the league is kind of caught up to his team, and they're doing different things now, and it's getting harder and harder. I mean, they got a 3-game losing streak now.
Yeah, but, dude's got to have a kicker that can hit the point after.
No, dude could use some playmakers there, too. So they got work to be done in the offseason in Washington. Thanks, Manny.
Okay, here, let's go to Callan. He goes, afternoon, gents. Happy early Thanksgiving to you both. Saw, why do you believe Jim Montgomery was fired by the Bruins? I'm of the belief that he was out of touch with the players like Marchand and Pasta.
A lot of problems with Brad Marchand and Dave Pasternak. He benched Pasternak for an entire third period, which was a shocker. There's something going on with Marchand, and as it relates to puck control and what they run on power plays, etc. I don't know if Montgomery's lifestyle problems resurfaced. He had a severe alcohol problem, which is why he got gutted in Dallas, but he went through rehab. He was out of hockey, came back, said all the right things, has become kind of a spokesman for recovering alcoholics. But there was just something, there was a grind that didn't work in that room. And also he insulted the goaltenders. I mean, Swayman, the young goaltender, had such a fabulous postseason run, Callum, and then he held out and he didn't go to camp and he's played like crap. John and I were laughing about save percentage. I had to teach my co-host how important save percentage is. And if you have a save percentage, it's 910, 920. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Ducks have a goaltender save percentage at one point of 945, which is through the ceiling. Jeremy Swayman's save percentage, John, in Boston to start the season, 845.
Oh,
guys who have save percentages of 845 are normally in the American Hockey League. And Montgomery blasted Swayman about, how did that season-long holdout missing training camp go? Look what you're doing to my team. So there was a lot of issues, player and personality issues with that head coach. Callum, thanks for joining us.
Okay, let's keep going here. And this is a comment about Around the Horn on ESPN. Yeah. And this is from Greg Liverpool. He says, terrible move. That's how young sports reporters get their exposure, Lee.
Well, it was fascinating when it started, but I kind of equate that to what we did in sports talk radio in San Diego way back in Extra 690. We were the first ones through the wall. These guys were the first ones to create Around the Horn, which was like a writer's roundtable. I mean, it was really good because nobody else was doing it. But that's 23 years ago, and things obviously do change. And I just think now there's so many shows out there, and there's so much noise out there that it gets lost. It doesn't stand up here. I mean, I joke all the time about Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith, but I watch them while I'm doing physical workouts at the fitness center early in the morning. And I'm good friends with Chris Mad Dog Russo, and he just goes 1,000 miles an hour. To me, it's too early in the morning to have too much yelling like that. But Mad Dog is great at what he does. But that's what it's on everywhere. Everybody's got somebody screaming at you. Hell, at least we wait till 1 o'clock in the afternoon before we lecture you on life. So that's probably got something to do with it. But the national media has been kind of bagging on ESPN. Why the hell are you doing this? This was novel. It was unique. Now, is it worn out? Is it different? They've gone through a lot of co-hosts and a lot of different guys. And you mentioned the reporters, how cool a series that was. But,
Mhm.
that's kind of changed too. So there's an awful lot of noise out there, John.
Yeah, including podcasts like us, but it was interesting that Around the Horn and how it was like a game show. I mean,
Yeah.
they would get points depending on how hot their take was. But I remember one time I was in Times Square in New York City and went into the ESPN restaurant, bar, whatever, and that's where the studio was for the
Mhm.
sports reporters, and it was cool seeing it.
Yeah. It's novel. I mean, broadcasting is, do you create something different and do you evolve with it as it goes along? And as I like to say, you stay in one place too long, they will get you.
Yeah, they will get you. Okay, let's keep moving here. Let's go to Richard. He goes, a large percentage of LA fans don't want Juan Soto. His demeanor is in huge question and too much Padre vibes. The demand for Teoscar Hernandez and other Dodger free agents is more preferable.
Well, I think the only negative about Teoscar, and he had a marvelous season, and if Seattle had kept him, Seattle might have played in the playoffs and done something, but they got rid of him, and then Seattle stopped hitting completely. The only thing is that Teoscar wants like 3 years, 90 mil at age 33. And I don't know that the Dodgers are going to do that. Would they go 1 year plus an option at 30 plus? Maybe. He made 23 mil last season, but to give a guy of his age 3 years, 90 million, it's an awful lot of money. Boston's talking to him. Baltimore, which needs a veteran presence in an otherwise really young lineup. Orioles have had 2 great seasons with kids, but they've ended badly, first round eliminations in the playoffs each year. So Tio might wind up in the American League East probably. But now this Arenado story has surfaced at Fenway Park, and maybe Boston would rather have Arenado for 2 short years because they got a lot of kids in the farm system of trade rather than Teoscar for 3 years, 90. Could you imagine Tio hitting home runs at Fenway too? Whoa.
Yeah, but I think Hernandez comes back to the Dodgers. It
At
was
what price though?
Well, but they're spending $700 million on Shohei Ohtani. Money is no object with the Dodgers. And he was just such a good teammate for them. So, and besides, you're moving Mookie Betts into the infield. You have nobody to play the outfield.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I mean, some of this is tied to potential trades. If the Dodgers deal some of their young guys to go get another guy, another veteran in the trade market. Dodgers are in on Blake Snell. I don't think the Dodgers are after Soto at all. So, but nobody's signed yet. Usually when the first domino starts to fall, then things happen pretty quickly. Now, I was told by an agent that Scott Boras and Soto, in their meetings with I think 5 teams or maybe 6, told them, we want your first offer before Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving's Thursday. So I would bet today, tomorrow, Wednesday, before the Thanksgiving break, they will know who's a player in the Soto thing because they're going to have the actual Dodger dollar value in front of them, and then they'll start to negotiate specifics off that dollar value.
Well, some of the fans of social media are saying that the Blue Jays are going to give Soto a blank check. What do you think of that?
Does he want to go to Canada? He can't pitch, can he? Because they're a mess. I mean, granted, they got Vlad and they got Bo Bichette, but they don't have anything else. And then they had a lot of injuries on top of all their problems. And it's Canada. It just got to be different to want to play up there. It's not there's anything wrong in Canada, but it's just different. I think that's a reach. People said, we'll go back to Washington. Well, I don't see Washington having any meeting because they're not going to pay him that kind of money. They don't want to deal with Scott Boras. So I think the teams that have met are the teams that are going to be in the running. I would have to think Yankees, Mets are 1-1A. And out there in my mind is Boston, because Boston just said, we're going to pay the luxury tax. We're going to invest. And Boston has like 110 million space to go get guys. That's why they're talking to Snell, talking to Soto. That's why now they're talking to Colorado. Why they talk about Arenado now, why they talk to Teo Hernandez too.
Interesting. Yeah, the Red Sox fans are not going to put up with mediocre seasons.
No, but they've been rebuilding, and they got a lot of young kids. You look at that roster, and you say, boy, all these guys come out of the farm system. Yeah, and they had a tough start, and they got better and better and better, and they were in the bloody pennant race for a chunk in late summer. So they need some veteran players, talent. But Sam Kennedy, their president, after the meeting with Soto, said, we're going to pay the luxury tax, and we're going to invest.
Well, that Duran kid is pretty good.
Exactly.
For the Red Sox.
And you still got Ralph Devers, so.
Yeah, who can't play third base?
Yep.
Get him Arenado. Okay, let's keep moving. We got more Dodger talk. This is from David. I think this is when we were talking about Walker Buehler. He goes, because he's been in the league 5 years, has had 2 Tommy John surgeries.
But dude did throw 13 straight shutout innings in the most important time of the year, World Series. I just hate to see you let him go because I think he's fierce. He's got a bulldog persona, and you need that at the front of your rotation. And when he told Dave Roberts, get the F off my mound during the playoffs, hardly anybody's ever reported that. I thought that was really great. So I wouldn't let him go. Now, if his agent's asking for 3 years at $90 million, I don't know that I'd give him $30 million per year based on what he's come back from, but I'd sure like to keep him. But if the Yankees are willing to pay him significant jack, then maybe the Dodgers need to reconsider that too.
Well, I mean, just off the top of your head, I mean, let's name some of the Dodgers starting pitchers. Is Tyler Glasnow coming back next year?
Yes, he's 100%. He was told that he could start full baseball-related activities in December, and December is next week.
Okay, so you got Glasnow, you've got Yamamoto, you've got who else? I mean, when you say Goslin is healthy again, yes. You got all those kids, Gavin Stone,
but he's gone for the year, shoulder surgery.
And then who's the other one? Mike Grove
hadn't proven it yet.
Yeah, and so who else is there?
You got Kershaw, Dustin May, Walker Buehler. Dustin May's totally healthy.
He got a contract extension.
Exactly, 1 year. But that's because he had the throat surgery after he had the forearm surgery. But he's back. So, I mean, there's strength in numbers there. But those guys you mentioned coming off physical issues are not equal to Buehler.
I always think of Ferris Bueller, but it's interesting is that I didn't realize how fiery Walker Buehler is. Because when he's pitching, he's usually pretty contained and controlled. But then we've seen him blow up in the dugout, throwing Gatorade bottles around and everything else.
Yeah, him and Jack Flaherty, they speak the same language.
Oh yeah, Flaherty. That's another one right there. I mean, they have so many starting pitchers. I don't know how. I mean, they got to let someone go, and Bueller sounds like one you would probably let go.
He winds up as the number 2 guy to the Yankees, and if Bueller becomes vintage Bueller, wow, good acquisition, New York.
Yeah, he's a righteous dude.
Yeah, he really is.
Okay. All right, more Dodger talk. This is from Flegel. He goes, any move the Dodgers make with Lux is unacceptable. Bueller isn't happy with Dave Roberts.
Well, in terms of Lux, he had the lousy start at hitting. And of course, as a byproduct of coming off the major knee injury a year ago. I'll tell you what, though, you go back and if you go to baseballreference.com, you look at where his batting average was in May and what he finished up with in September. Like, dude hit like 310 or 315 from May to September. He reinvented himself. He went back to what he was doing before. Good player. Now, man, I'm without a position right now because Mookie's going to second. The rumor mill, and we haven't really touched bases on this, is the Dodgers are talking to Willie Adames in Milwaukee. Now, everybody else is talking to him too.
Really?
Yeah. So if Adames becomes your shortstop with Mookie, then Lux has to go to the outfield. Now, maybe Lux can play the outfield because he's fast and he makes things happen. Or Lux becomes part of this other trade package. The Dodgers are talking to a lot of different people, and the Dodgers are playing with big dollars, and they get Adames. That's a hell of an acquisition.
Wow. I mean, it's just the rich get richer with these guys. They have so many players. I don't know how they're going to make a 26-man roster.
Well, they don't have them all under contract right now, and some may be used as trade bait to make a deal somewhere else.
Yeah,
keep that in mind. Okay, thank you for the input.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go here to John. He goes, well, I bragged on the Alex Ovechkin last week. He goes out and breaks his fibula. Perhaps I should now say how Dean Spanos is the NFL's best owner. Perhaps we should call tonight's game the Mayflower Bowl, 2 teams that left cities where they were beloved.
Oh, my goodness. I'm glad he doesn't carry any grudges. My name's on that memo, and so is John's, too. Spanos has nothing to do with this. This is all about Harbaugh, his history. It's all about the kid quarterback who's finally been surrounded by pretty good people. It's going to be a great game. It really is. I don't want to see any TV shouts at Dean Spanos. It was interesting. I put a Hacksaw mini poll question up on my X account. I do mini poll questions every day of the week, which is why you should be on my Twitter All-Star team at Hacksaw1090. Follow me. I put this Twitter All-Star question up over the weekend about pick 'em, pal, who's going to win, Ravens and Baltimore, and then fans voted, and they were voting for Baltimore for the most part. And I said, what storyline's the most important to you? And they were saying, well, it's It's Justin Herbert versus Lamar Jackson. It's John versus Jim. It doesn't matter because I still hate Spanos and I won't pay any attention to the Chargers. And they got 55% of the votes.
Wow.
They still dislike the first family of football.
It was a disgrace. I mean, if you're a Charger fan, it's just like getting your heart ripped out of you when they left town.
Well, I'm the one that coined the phrase. I hope Justin Herbert goes 17-0, and I hope Dean Spanos goes 0-17.
That's going to get you on your therapist's couch, trying to reconcile those two things.
All right, John, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the game.
Okay, let's go to Jason. He says, my Niners are going to go 5-7 after next week. Amazing that they still have a chance to win the division if things go their way.
Yeah, division's kind of weird right now, and Arizona's setback yesterday was a real blow. But everybody's flawed in that division. I mean, Arizona, even though John Gannon's done a really good job fixing that defense, for them to lose on the road, and they're playing 4 of 6 away from home, that's pretty tough for them. And you got San Francisco, which is so dinged up. Seattle's the one that's, to me, has got all this talent on paper, but they can't keep him healthy at all. Geno Smith's been doing this whole thing almost by himself. He's got the wide receivers who can be good, but they get hurt. They had no defense. Offensive line has been ragtag. They had a running back that got out of Michigan State 2 years ago. I thought was going to be a star, and he just keeps getting dinged, kind of like Rashad Penny came from San Diego State, and I thought was going to be a pretty good NFL player, but he couldn't stay on the field. So Geno Smith's doing a hell of a job. It's just, NFC West is just not what you thought it would be.
I mean, just for so long, it's been San Francisco and then every once in a while the Rams, So it is kind of neat to see Seattle and Arizona to be competitive. But remember when Geno Smith came out of college, where he went to West Virginia, I think, and he was good.
He's another one, went to the Jets. How'd that work out?
Not so good. And that was the thing, is that Geno Smith was like almost like a Daniel Jones to a degree.
He was a shotgun quarterback in a wired up college system that took forever to become a pro quarterback, but he's such a good athlete and he's got a gun for an arm. He's gotten progressively more competitive.
He has, and it's very impressive to see what he's done. So it's fun to see some of these lesser teams rising to the top.
Okay, a couple more here before we go to social media.
Okay, well, actually, let's go to social media now. I mean, we got trying to get everybody involved here, and let's go to Aztecs football. This is from Big E. He says, sounds like desperation and excuses. Defense is horrible. Offensively, nothing exciting about it. You can't be making excuses. The people will come if you win. 3-8 record after today is in the Chuck Long status. Fans don't want to see losing football.
Tell you what, there was so much enthusiasm. I used the term, I'm going to write a column about it for my website this week, but I used the term great expectation, greatest disappointment. I just can't tell you how much I expected out of Sean Lewis based on where he'd been, what he had done at Bowling Green at Syracuse, then at Kent State, which is a very tough place to play. They're 0-12 this year at Kent State, 2 years after he left. So they've fallen really badly. And then obviously we did the first half of the season in kind of a tough situation with so many transfers with Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. I just thought it would happen a lot quicker. But when we have 10 different starting offensive linemen in 6 weeks, there's no continuity. The thing that really bothers me, and I'd mentioned this to John a couple weeks ago, when you talk about college football programs, where is your team at the starting point, and what do they look like by the time you get to the finish line? And have they made enough progress? And you look at what happened in New Mexico, and that head coach,
Bronco Mendenhall,
who had left University of Virginia, who didn't like the NIL and decided to come back to the West and live. What Bronco has done at New Mexico, where they started to where they are now, they got 5 wins. 5. New Mexico. They got more wins than the Aztecs.
They might get in a bowl.
They're getting better. And where the Aztecs started here, 4 straight blowouts. They're giving up over 500 yards a game on defense the last 4 weeks. And the offense is one of the most anemic offenses on third down conversions, red zone conversions into touchdowns. And overall, I don't think they're even averaging 400 yards a game on offense now. I think it's a shade over 300. So the loss of the offensive line, and coupled with the loss of all those kids in the transfer portal, has just been a real setback, and I expect a lot more from Sean Lewis. But, of course, we're going to give him another year. Let's just see. He needs another round of his type of players. needs a little luck. But, pal, they better not be sitting here at 4-9 next season after this season, because this is a massively bad disappointment.
Well, I would imagine the next season is going to be a repeat of this season because they're going to have the transfer portal. Everyone's going to leave.
Well, you don't know that.
Well,
the guys he brought in might not leave.
Well, hopefully not. But if that happens, you're going to have to be starting from ground zero again
with young kids.
With, granted, O'Neal will be a second-year quarterback, but it's a tough go. It's also the timing of when NIL became a thing. Imagine if it happened 10 years ago when the Aztec program was really good. They might be able to build on something, but the NIL happened when the Aztecs were in a downswing.
Big E, here's the thing that scares the hell out of me. They're going to the Pac-12, the rejuvenated Pac-12 with Oregon State, Washington State, and the guys from the Mountain West. How are they going to compete at that level? The Pac-12, we're going to the Pac-12, it's all about money. Money we're going to take in, media rights and all that. How the hell are they going to compete compared to where they are right now, scuffling to keep their players because they don't have a big NIL checking account? It's tough. I mean, if you can't compete in the Mountain West at this point with Sean Lewis and his playbook and all the kids he's imported, what makes you think they can be able to compete at, quote, the Pac-12 level? Just being in the Pac-12 doesn't make you good.
They're going to have to get lucky with some recruits, like, the way they got Marshall Faulk or something. Something unexpected is going to have to happen.
So that's where we are. I'm disappointed. I'm not condemning this coach, but I'll be honest with you. I don't want to sit at any more press conferences and hear motivational speeches because he's used all the words in the dictionary, and he says, I didn't do a good enough job. Damn right you didn't. And it's tough on the kids. I'm not blaming it. They're college kids. I understand that. But if I was an Aztec fan, friend, and alum, my first thing to you is, why the hell aren't you supporting the team by showing up at the games and throwing your support behind them in the shiny new stadium? And secondly, how scared are you? Because, boy, I don't like what I'm witnessing right now. I'm not saying he's the wrong coach. I'm just saying the way he's conducted his business has been a bit of a turnoff to the town, I think.
Aztec alums aren't going, not only because it's a bad product, but because the damn ticket prices are so expensive. So the whole thing just needs to be blown up and re-engineered.
It's a basketball school.
It is. Right now it is.
That's terrible to say from a football guy.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for joining us, E.
Okay, let's move on here and talk to Tony, talking about Monday Night Football. He says, I'm keeping the receipts, Hacksaw. You were crapping on the Chargers, asking the same open-ended but semi-slanderous clickbait.
I guess he didn't agree with me that you got to prove yourself. No problem. They are 7-3. They played 6 bad quarterbacks who were either backups or raw rookies. Joe Burrow nearly beat him. And Joe Burrow, by the way, plays on a really bad Cincinnati team. And here comes Lamar. And then after that, they go to Atlanta, where Kirk Cousins plays with his hair on fire at home. And they got to go to Arrowhead, and you got Patrick Mahomes, and you still got Baker Mayfield. And then you got Bo Nix in Denver, who think they're in the playoffs right now, thanks to Sean Payton. So season's not over, but they got to prove themselves. Got to prove themselves to me. Their manhood is going to be tested tonight against the Baltimore Ravens. So, Tony, here's the rain check. Put it in your pocket. You make sure you're here at the end of the week. Now, we're off, by the way, on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to impose on John eating pumpkin pie and all that, but we're going to do our show on Friday.
All right. That sounds good.
We're going to do Thursday's show on Friday. So, Tony, put this rain check in your pocket. Don't lose it. So make sure you check back with us, and we'll do a recap of Monday Night Football. They got to prove themselves to me over the 17-game schedule, because now they're playing real people. I'm not bagging on them. I'm just telling you what I think. And last I checked, that's what I get paid. I get paid to put topics on the table like this, and then I get paid to have opinions on the topics on the table, and then I get paid to listen to you rant about my opinion on my topics on the table.
This is just like Dodger Padre stuff, because you call it like it is, and when they're doing well, you praise them, and when they're dogging it and they're losing, you give them crap.
And who did I get that from off TV when I was a kid growing up on Long Island?
Howard Cosell.
Way to go, man. Tony, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you join us on Friday Good to have you with us. Go ahead. Let's do it a couple more.
Okay, let's talk here. The rookie of the year thing is something. And this is from Lance. And he says, whatever brings the most new eyes to the game, right? I.e., the most social media followers and MLB's fascinated desire with having a Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift like following to the sport. With all the nuances, the money grabs, the alleviated or dismissal of ethics for the sake of profits and notoriety. This may be the first time in a long time where I just don't watch regular season baseball anymore. Just my opinion. Have at me.
Lance, I'd throw a punch at you, but I don't want to hit you. It's Thanksgiving week. Every sport, every business has got bad citizens. But, for every Joel Embiid mess in the Philadelphia 76ers locker room, the confrontation with the media and his own teammates calling him out. For every bad citizen, there's a really good guy out there. There's a lot of great storylines about people doing stuff in their community. My heart kind of sank when I saw Austin Eckler get hurt at the end of the Washington game with what appears to be a very serious concussion. He was hospitalized, still hospitalized. That guy, when he was here with the San Diego Chargers, he did so much community stuff that I was aware of. So for every bad dude that's out there, money grabber, as you would say, bad citizen, there's lots of really good people doing lots of things. And the games are so much fun. I hate the injury factor to the National Football League. There's such wicked stuff that happens. Some, unfortunately, by cheap shots, some of it just by accident. The Carolina tight end, I don't know if you saw the hit yesterday. He flipped upside down and he was in the air and came down on his head. It wasn't a cheap shot, just the angle he got hit. He came back down and he was down on the field for 10 to 12 minutes and was unconscious. And they put him on the board and they finally took him to the hospital and got released from the hospital late last night. He's got a bruised spinal column. But those things happen. I hate the injury aspect of what's gone on in professional sports, but the games are exciting, and there's so many good people out there doing so many really cool things on behalf of their community. It's phenomenal.
Like in this rookie of the year thing, I mean, did you see when it was announced and Paul Skeens and his girlfriend were on the couch and Paul Skeens looked like total deadpan? It's like, dude, you just won rookie of the year. And it's like he had this weird look on his face.
He had this
yeah, exactly
mentality.
But, I do think, though, that Lance does touch on something is that, the way that the Taylor Swift thing with the NFL has been a big, big deal. I mean, a lot of people that never watch football watch the Chiefs
because of her.
And I think, Justin Verlander is married to, I can't remember her name, the supermodel.
Yeah.
And there's been other cases like that. And that, again, it attracts attention.
Marketing.
It is marketing. So, is that the case here with Skeens? Maybe, but I don't know. I think it was more of an East Coast bias.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong there. I just think it was stupidity. And I respect what that kid pitcher did with the Pirates, but that was 23 outings. This kid played 154.
Yeah.
Pigpen.
And he got more, Jackson Merrill got more MVP votes than Paul Skeens did.
Yeah.
I mean, so that just proves it right there that he should have been the rookie of the year.
Uninformed, or just not paying attention, or maybe biased. I don't know. I don't know if there's an East Coast, West Coast bias, but obviously our games start really late on the Eastern Seaboard and people don't pay much attention because the Padres haven't won bleep in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the East Coast bias is not like how should I say, an evil thing. It's just like you say, it's the nature of the time zones.
Yeah. Nick Canup of the Union Tribune senior columnist who only writes once a week, does a notes column on Sunday in the Union Tribune. He wrote half of his column was whining and crying about this, about bias. And I think there's probably a shred of truth to it. They're just not paying attention. But the day after you can pay attention because, one of my good friends is the sports editor of the AP office here in San Diego. He writes volumes about, Bernie Wilson writes volumes about what Jackson Merrill accomplished from every different conceivable angle. So the national media that might be in Chicago or in Atlanta or Yankee Stadium or in the state of New England, they know what's going on because everybody reads everything everybody else writes just for background. So they just didn't pay attention, which is too bad.
Too bad.
Okay, let's do a couple more.
Okay, here's one about the MLB deal that was interesting, and this is from Super Reviews. He says, wouldn't the revenue generated from those 25 teams have to be shared with all 30 teams because of revenue sharing? I don't see how the Dodgers and other teams would be forced to give up half their TV deal while these 25 teams would get to keep all the money and split it.
Well, the amount of money they would make, and what we're going to do is, at least this has to be negotiated, but through the union and others. But what they're proposing is in 2028, when all the contracts expire, baseball wants to take the 25 remaining teams that were all damaged by the regional sports network collapse and put them in a streaming package. The Yankees are not giving up their rights. The Mets are not. Neither of the Dodgers. Maybe Nesson, Boston, Red Sox are not going to give up their package. Maybe the Orioles won't either at Mid-Atlantic. But what's going to happen is you take 25, then Major League Baseball will bid it out to all those guys who do streaming, the Netflixes and the Amazons and the Primes of the world, etc. And there'll be mega money there for those 25, and they're going to split that 25. Baseball will then probably restructure revenue sharing, but I'm sure the Red Sox, Yankees, Mets, Dodgers will pour some of their TV revenue into a second pot that will be shared by these other 25 teams. The idea makes a lot of sense to me because fan support has rocketed. Baseball's gone through a rebirth. It's no longer, quote, America's pastime, P-A-S-T. I think baseball's gone through a rebirth. The TV ratings have rocketed. And if you come up with a single entity streaming service where I only have to go one place to watch my team, that's pretty damn cool. And then baseball's going to take events and bid them out separately to ESPN and TBS and TNT and Fox as separate specialty events in 2028, whether that's the All-Star Game, whether that's the playoffs, the World Series, or special interleague scheduling or international games. They're going to bid that out as another separate couple of packages, and all that money will go into a pot for everybody. They'll find a way to negotiate percentages. So I understand the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Red Sox and the Mets don't want to give up because those are regional things that are raging successes, but they'll put some into the pot, and the 25 package will have their own pot to divvy up. The baseball think this is above my pay grade intellectually. Baseball thinks there'll be a lot of money to be made off these different facets that they're going to package while the big teams keep their super networks.
This is a little bit like what's going on in college football, with like the super conference idea. But I do like the idea of the 25 together because let's say you're a national advertiser like Budweiser. I mean, you can make one buy and get your ad across 25 teams. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's good for the advertiser and it's good for MLB.
We don't know the price tag for Budweiser to make that. No, my beer preference is either Rolling Rock or...
Yeah, well, yeah, you would make sense to be a Rolling Rock guy because that's Western Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what we drank in the bars at Ohio University. Yes,
okay.
Thank you. It didn't kill me, so it works. But it'll be interesting to see what the dollar value is for the advertisers. Ford comes in and is going to buy the streaming package, and it'll be on their Ford commercials will be on every Major League Baseball team's broadcast. It's cool, but the price tag is probably going to be steep.
It will be, but also they can scale a lot of these things because the format and all the bumpers and everything. They can easily customize it for every team. So each team doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. So I think this is a huge win. And I'll bet you what will happen is that over time, we're not going to have the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees with their own separate deals. It'll all come together.
I think not. The big boys are not going to give up what the big boys got because the big boys are making big money off that, but they're sharing that. And they'll continue to take a piece of their pie and drop it into the Team 25 concept.
Yeah, well, they'll figure out something.
Good question. That's great. It's a very complex thing, and it's in the early stages of creativity. John, let's do one more.
Okay, one more, and let's go here. Talk about Howard Cosell. Let's talk about boxing, and this is from Sam, and he goes, this is the Tyson Jake Paul thing. He goes, as weird as the whole thing was, and it was very weird, I had no problem with the Tyson Paul fight being held because boxing is a lost sport. 98% of Americans have no idea who the heavyweight champion is these days. When I was growing up in the 70s, everybody knew who the heavyweight champion was. Boxing needs to try whatever it can to get on the map again.
I concur with you. And boxing in the Olympics is no longer a thing. boxing's explosion came by virtue of the Montreal Olympics. That was Sugar Ray Leonard and all those guys, Thomas Hitman Hearns. And it was a rebirth of boxing. And of course, prior to that, we had the phenomenal Ali heavyweight division with Smokin' Joe and Evander Holyfield, and just that whole entourage for the sport has kind of virtually disappeared. Now, some of it is because it's been replaced by cage fighting, UFC, and all that. But I don't know if it's ever going to come back to what it used to be. You know, we had the two heavyweight champions were from Russia. The Klitschko brothers.
Yeah.
From the Ukraine. And boxing has never been the same since then. And the Olympic boxing just is not held in the same reverence as it was from back in the day. So maybe the sport will have a rebirth. I don't know. But I'm sorry, that was not a fight. That was more of a fraud. But like I told John, people stopped to look at car wrecks. I guess they had to stop and look at this.
Exactly what that was. It was a car. It was a train wreck. It was everything. But I enjoyed the event because it felt like the 1970s again.
Gillette cavalcade of sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Friday night fights.
You know, and you know, Sam's right. Back in the 70s, we all knew it was Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. You know, who was the other one out there? It was Joe Frazier,
Larry Holmes, Stonehands Duran.
Yeah. So we remember all those names. And obviously when UFC became a thing and suddenly they could fight in all kinds of creative ways, that was attractive. But it is kind of retro cool to watch boxing now, you know, and I'll be flipping stations and a boxing match will be on. And I don't have any idea who these fighters are, but I enjoy watching it. It's just it's different.
Okay. Hey, listen, we hope